Get out of the car. Officer Ryan Mitchell's voice cut through the warm Houston afternoon like a command that had already decided the outcome. Danielle Carter kept both hands on the steering wheel, fingers resting against the worn leather. Red and blue lights pulsed across her windshield, turning the quiet interior of her sedan into flashes of color. She looked at the badge, then at the officer's face. "Officer, am I under arrest?" Ryan did not answer. He stepped closer to the driver's window. "I said get out." Danielle took a slow breath. "I'm cooperating. I just want to understand why I'm being stopped." Behind them, traffic continued through the intersection. A city bus rolled past. Tires whispered over warm asphalt. Somewhere nearby, a pedestrian paused beneath a storefront awning and watched. Everything around Danielle looked ordinary, almost painfully ordinary. Yet inside her car, time seemed to have slowed. She had left Jefferson Elementary less than 15 minutes earlier. She was a fourth-grade reading teacher, and the canvas tote on the floor beside her contained graded worksheets, construction paper, and a stack of books she needed to review that night. On the passenger seat sat a small white bakery box holding 6 lemon cupcakes for her mother. It had been an ordinary Tuesday. That was what made the moment so unsettling. Nothing had happened that should have turned a drive home into this. Ryan looked through the window. License and registration. Danielle nodded. "Of course." She moved one hand slightly toward the center console. "Keep your hands where I can see them." She stopped immediately. "Okay." Her voice remained calm. "I'll keep them visible." Ryan studied her. "You were driving suspiciously." Danielle blinked once. "I was coming from school." "That's not what I asked." She looked at him carefully. "What did I do?" Ryan's expression hardened. "You made an unsafe turn." Danielle knew she had not. She had used her signal, stopped completely, and waited for the intersection to clear. But she also knew that arguing beside a busy road would not make the situation clearer. "If I made a mistake, I'm willing to hear what it was," she said. "I just want to understand." Ryan's eyes narrowed. "You people always make simple things difficult." The words hung there. Danielle felt heat rise behind her eyes, but she refused to let it control her voice. She had spent years teaching children that anger could make a difficult moment worse. She had told her students that courage did not always mean speaking the loudest. Sometimes courage meant staying calm when someone wanted you to lose your composure. "I don't want any trouble," she said. "Neither do I. Step outside." Danielle slowly opened the door. Warm air moved across her face as she stepped onto the pavement. She stood beside her car with both hands visible, trying to understand how quickly an ordinary afternoon had changed. Ryan pointed toward the sidewalk. "Over there." Danielle followed the direction without arguing. She stopped beneath the shade of a street sign and looked back at her car. Her phone was still inside, lying beside her keys. The bakery box remained on the passenger seat, slightly crooked from the sudden stop. One cupcake had shifted against the cardboard and left a thin streak of yellow frosting along the side. Danielle stared at it for a second. 6 cupcakes. A stack of papers. A Tuesday afternoon. Tiny pieces of a normal life that suddenly felt very far away. Ryan began writing on his notepad. Danielle watched him, then asked quietly, "Can I make a phone call?" He looked up. "Who are you calling?" "Someone who needs to know what's happening." Ryan gave a faint, dismissive smile. "You really think one phone call is going to change anything?" Danielle reached into her pocket and took out her phone. Her hands were steady now. She unlocked the screen and looked down at the list of contacts. She had no idea what would happen next. She only knew that standing there alone was no longer an option. Her thumb stopped over one name. Then she pressed call. The call rang twice before a calm male voice answered. "Danielle." She looked toward Officer Ryan Mitchell, then turned slightly away from him. "Marcus, it is me." Her voice was quiet, almost ordinary. "Tell me where you are." Danielle glanced at the street sign above her, then at the patrol car behind her sedan. "Westheimer and Kirby. I was pulled over about 10 minutes ago." There was a brief silence on the other end. "Are you safe?" Marcus asked. Danielle looked at Ryan. He stood several feet away, writing on his notepad, his attention returning to her every few seconds. "I am standing beside my car," she said. "I am not sure what happens next." "All right. Stay calm. Tell me exactly what happened. Nothing more. Nothing less." Danielle took a slow breath. Exactly what happened. That was something she could hold on to. No assumptions. No anger. Just facts. She looked toward the intersection and began. I left Jefferson Elementary at about 4:45. I drove west on Westheimer. I stopped at the intersection. I used my turn signal. The officer followed me for about 3 blocks before turning on his lights. Marcus listened without interrupting. What did he say? He said I was driving suspiciously. Did he identify a specific traffic violation? He said I made an unsafe turn. Which turn? Danielle looked at Ryan. He did not say. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Did he ask for your license and registration? Yes. Did you provide them? I was about to. He told me to keep both hands where he could see them. And did you? Yes. Did he ask you to sign anything? Not yet. Marcus's voice remained steady. Good. Keep your phone with you. Do not argue. Do not volunteer information that is not necessary. If you do not understand a question, ask him to explain it. Danielle nodded. I understand. Ryan began walking toward her. You finished with your phone call? Danielle lowered the phone slightly. Almost. You are making this more complicated than it needs to be. Danielle looked at him. I am only trying to understand what is happening. Ryan's expression tightened. I already told you. You said I made an unsafe turn. Correct. Which intersection? Ryan paused. The one back there. Danielle waited. Which intersection exactly? For a moment, the street seemed unusually quiet. Ryan glanced toward his patrol car. Danielle noticed the movement, but said nothing. Marcus's voice came through the phone. Danielle, are you still there? Yes. Put me on speaker. Danielle hesitated. She looked at Ryan, then pressed the speaker button. Marcus's voice carried clearly into the warm afternoon air. Officer, my name is Marcus Reed. I am Danielle Carter's attorney. I would like to understand the basis for this stop. Ryan looked directly at the phone. She is not under arrest. I understand, Marcus replied. Then there should be no problem identifying the reason for the stop. Ryan remained silent. Danielle stood still, her phone steady in her hand. Marcus continued. Please provide your name and badge number for the record. Ryan's face changed slightly. You do not need to be involved in this. I disagree, Marcus said. If this is a routine traffic stop, we can keep it routine. Danielle is willing to cooperate. His voice never rose. He did not threaten anyone. He simply asked for clarity. Yet the atmosphere had changed. Ryan looked toward the patrol car again. Danielle could hear faint radio static coming from inside. A white delivery van passed through the intersection. A woman waiting at the bus stop glanced toward them, then looked away. The city continued moving, but Danielle felt as if the moment had become suspended. Marcus asked, Officer, is your body camera active? Ryan did not answer immediately. Danielle watched him carefully. The sunlight reflected from the patrol car windshield, making the equipment inside difficult to see. Finally, Ryan said, Yes. Marcus paused. Good. Then everything that happens from this point forward will be documented. Danielle lowered her eyes. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She simply breathed. The call had not ended the traffic stop. It had not erased the uncertainty, but something important had shifted. Danielle had spent the last several minutes trying to prove that she was not a problem. Now, for the first time, someone was asking a different question. What exactly had happened? Ryan closed his notepad and looked toward her. Give me your license. Danielle reached slowly toward her pocket, then stopped. Before I do, may I ask one thing? Ryan frowned. What? Danielle looked directly at him. Are you writing down what actually happened, or what you want the report to say? Ryan said nothing. Marcus remained silent on speaker. Even the traffic noise seemed to fade for one brief second. Danielle knew the answer would matter. She just did not know yet how much. You have 5 seconds to explain why I should not write this as noncompliance. Officer Ryan Mitchell stood beside the patrol car, his notepad open, his expression firm as he waited for Danielle Carter to answer. The Houston afternoon had grown hotter, sunlight settling over the pavement in a pale gold haze. Danielle remained beside her sedan, her phone on speaker in her hand, Marcus Reed listening from the other end. She looked at Ryan, then at the small screen. I already explained what happened. Ryan glanced toward the phone. Your attorney seems to have a lot to say. Marcus answered calmly. I am asking for clarity. That should not be a problem. Ryan ignored him and looked back at Danielle. License and registration. Danielle slowly reached into her purse and removed her driver's license. She held it between 2 fingers. Here. Ryan took it and examined the card. His eyes moved across her name, address, and expiration date. Nothing appeared unusual. Where do you live? Houston. Where exactly? Danielle gave him the address printed on the license. Ryan looked at the card again. And you work at Jefferson Elementary? Yes. How long? 7 years. He wrote something down. Danielle watched the pen move across the paper. She wondered what words he was choosing. The thought reminded her of something her mother had told her when Danielle was 17. Write down what happened while you still remember it clearly. Not what you wish had happened. Not what someone else has happened. Just what happened. At the time, Danielle had thought it was ordinary advice. Standing beside a patrol car years later, she understood it differently. Ryan returned his attention to her. You said you were coming from school. I was. Why were you in this neighborhood? Danielle looked toward the intersection. Because this is the route I take home. Every day. Usually. Ryan's pen stopped. Usually is not an answer. Danielle remained calm. I drive this way several times a week. Marcus spoke again. Officer Mitchell, may I ask what specific violation you are investigating? Ryan looked toward the phone. You were not here. Marcus answered. That is why I am asking. Ryan gave no response. Danielle noticed something else then. The patrol car was positioned where its dashboard camera faced the intersection. A traffic camera was mounted on the nearby pole. The storefront across the street had a small security camera pointed toward the parking area. She looked at each one without saying anything. Marcus noticed her silence. Danielle? Yes. What are you looking at? She answered quietly. Cameras. There was a short pause. How many? Marcus asked. Danielle counted. At least 3 that I can see. Ryan's eyes followed hers. His expression changed for only a moment. Then he looked back at his notepad. You are not being investigated for anything serious, he said. Then this should be simple, Danielle replied. The sentence was soft, but it landed clearly. Ryan folded the license into his hand. You need to stop questioning everything I say. Danielle took a breath. I am not questioning your authority. I am asking you to explain what I am accused of doing. Marcus remained silent now. He was listening. Ryan stepped toward the patrol vehicle, then stopped and looked back. Stay here. Danielle nodded. I will. Ryan walked away with her license. His footsteps became quieter as he approached the cruiser. The radio inside crackled. Danielle could not hear the words, only fragments of sound. Marcus lowered his voice. Danielle, listen carefully. She looked down at the phone. What? You are doing exactly what you should be doing. Stay calm. Remember every detail. Danielle looked at the white bakery box through the car window. 6 lemon cupcakes. Her mother's favorite. She wondered how long the stop would last and whether the frosting would melt before she reached home. Then she noticed a woman standing across the street, holding a grocery bag and watching the patrol car. The woman had her phone raised slightly. She was recording. Danielle did not know who she was. She did not know what she had captured. But for the first time, Danielle understood that the story was no longer only between her and Officer Mitchell. There were witnesses now. Cameras. A recorded call. A body camera. And facts that could be checked. Ryan returned after several minutes, holding Danielle's license. His expression was different. Not softer. Just more careful. You are free to go, he said. Danielle looked at him. Why? Ryan paused. Marcus was still listening. The woman across the street was still holding her phone. And somewhere inside the patrol car, a recording continued to run. Ryan finally said, We are done here. Danielle accepted her license. She did not celebrate. She simply looked at him and asked one final question. Officer Mitchell, what are you putting in your report? He stared at her for a long moment. Then he turned away without answering. Danielle slipped her phone into her pocket. The traffic light changed from red to green, and the city moved again. But the question remained, waiting for an answer that would soon matter much more than either of them realized. The question followed Danielle long after the patrol car disappeared from her rearview mirror. What are you putting in your report? She heard it again as she drove through Houston traffic, the white bakery box resting crooked on the passenger seat. The afternoon sun had begun to soften, turning the glass buildings along the road amber, but Danielle barely noticed. Her mind remained at Westheimer and Kirby. The flashing lights, the unanswered questions, the officer's changing tone, and the phone call that had shifted something neither of them could fully explain yet. Marcus was still on the line. Do not make any public statements tonight, he said. Get home first. Write down everything while it is fresh. Danielle nodded. I am going to my mother's house. Good. When you arrive, start with the exact time. Danielle glanced at the dashboard clock. 5:17. The stop began around 4:45. Write that down. where you were coming from, where you were going. Every question he asked, every answer you gave. Danielle looked at the road ahead. Marcus, why are you taking this so seriously? There was a pause. Because a traffic stop is one thing. A report that does not match the evidence is something else. Danielle tightened her grip on the steering wheel. She said nothing more. 20 minutes later, she pulled into her mother's driveway. The small brick house looked exactly as it always did, with 2 flower pots beside the front door and a wind chime moving gently in the evening breeze. For a moment, Danielle sat in the parked car. The quiet felt strange after the noise of the afternoon. She looked at the bakery box. 6 lemon cupcakes. One had slid against the side during the drive. She picked up the box and walked inside. Evelyn Carter was standing in the kitchen, preparing tea. You are late, her mother said without looking up. Then she turned. Her expression changed immediately. What happened? Danielle placed the cupcakes on the counter. I was stopped by a police officer. Evelyn turned off the kettle. Are you all right? Yes. What did he want? Danielle pulled out a chair. That is what I am trying to figure out. She explained everything carefully. She did not exaggerate. She did not leave out the uncomfortable parts. When she finished, Evelyn opened the bakery box and looked at the cupcakes. At least you remembered these. Danielle smiled faintly. I promised. Evelyn moved the crooked cupcake back into place. Some promises matter more than people realize. Marcus remained on speaker. Danielle, start writing. She took a notebook from the kitchen drawer. At the top of the first page, she wrote the date, then the time, then the location. She listed the direction she had been driving, the intersection where she stopped, and the words she remembered. She wrote that Ryan had described her driving as suspicious. She wrote that he had mentioned an unsafe turn without identifying the specific intersection. She wrote that he had asked where she lived and where she worked. Then she remembered something else. Marcus, there was a woman across the street. What did she do? She appeared to be recording the stop with her phone. Did you speak to her? No. Then write exactly that. Do not assume what she recorded. Just document what you observed. Danielle added the sentence. Evelyn watched quietly. You always did keep good notes, she said. Danielle closed the notebook for a moment. Mom, should I just let this go? Evelyn looked at her daughter. What do you want? Danielle answered immediately. I want the truth. Her mother nodded. Then do not let anger write the story for you. The kitchen became still. The refrigerator hummed. The ceiling fan turned slowly overhead. Danielle opened her laptop and searched for the city's public records process. Marcus guided her through the information. Traffic camera footage, dispatch records, body camera records, official reports. Each item was another piece of a timeline. Across town, Ryan Mitchell sat inside his patrol car beneath the fading evening light. His computer screen displayed the report he had started. The cursor blinked beside a blank field labeled reason for stop. He typed a few words. Then he stopped. He looked through the windshield toward the intersection in the distance. His phone vibrated. A notification appeared on the screen. A records request had been submitted for traffic camera footage from the exact location and time of the stop. Ryan stared at the message. The cursor continued blinking beside the unfinished report. For the first time that evening, the afternoon did not seem like a simple traffic stop anymore. It was becoming a record, and records had one dangerous quality for anyone who wanted to control the story. They could be checked. Marcus did not press play immediately. He looked at Danielle first, as if making sure she was ready for whatever the recording might reveal. Remember, he said quietly, we are not looking for something that makes us angry. We are looking for something we can prove. Danielle nodded. The conference room seemed colder than it had a few minutes earlier. Outside the glass walls, downtown Houston continued its morning rhythm, but inside, everything had narrowed to the tablet resting between them. Marcus opened the second traffic recording. The timestamp appeared in the corner of the screen. For 46 and 38 seconds, Danielle's sedan entered the frame. The camera showed the entire intersection from across the street. She approached the light normally, slowed, activated her turn signal, and completed the turn without leaving her lane. Marcus paused the footage. There is the moment described in the report. Danielle stared at the screen. That is not an unsafe lane change. No, Marcus said. It is not. He continued the recording. Ryan's patrol vehicle entered the frame several seconds later. The lights came on behind Danielle's sedan. She pulled over near the curb. Nothing unusual happened for the next few moments. Then the second camera angle began. This one came from a small business across the street. It showed Danielle sitting inside her car with both hands visible before Ryan approached the driver's window. Marcus slowed the footage. "Watch her hands." Danielle looked carefully. Her hands remained on the steering wheel. Ryan spoke. The camera had no audio, but Danielle remembered the words. She watched herself nod. She watched herself move slightly toward the center console, then immediately returned both hands to the wheel. Marcus continued. Ryan stepped back from the car. Danielle eventually opened the door and stepped onto the sidewalk. Again, nothing in the footage matched the language of the report. Marcus stopped the recording. Now we have visual evidence. Danielle looked down. What about Linda's recording? That is next. Marcus opened the file Linda Brooks had provided. The image was vertical, slightly shaky, and partially blocked by a parked vehicle. But the audio was clear. Danielle heard her own voice. "Officer, am I under arrest?" Then Ryan's voice. "I said get out." Danielle closed her eyes briefly. She did not need to watch herself. She remembered every second. The recording continued. "I am cooperating. I just want to understand why I am being stopped." Marcus paused it. He looked at Danielle. "This matters because your words are calm and specific." Danielle opened her eyes. "I was trying not to make things worse. And you did exactly that." Marcus resumed the recording. Ryan described her driving as suspicious. Danielle asked what she had done. Ryan mentioned an unsafe turn but did not identify the intersection. Then came the sentence Danielle had tried not to think about since the previous afternoon. "You people always make simple things difficult." Marcus stopped the recording again. Silence filled the room. Danielle looked at the table. "He said it." Marcus nodded. "Yes." "Does that prove discrimination?" "Not by itself," Marcus said carefully. "But it is relevant, especially when combined with everything else." Danielle took a slow breath. She wanted to feel angry. Instead, she felt tired. The recordings were not dramatic. There was no grand revelation. They were simply pieces of an ordinary afternoon, preserved in places Danielle had not even known were watching. A traffic camera, a patrol camera, a stranger's phone. Small pieces of truth, waiting quietly. Marcus opened another document. "There is something else." Danielle looked up. "What?" "The department has started reviewing Officer Mitchell's recent traffic stops." Her expression changed. "Because of me?" "Because of the discrepancy between the report and the available recordings." Marcus turned the screen toward her. A list appeared. Dates, locations, case numbers. Several stops had occurred in the same part of Houston. Danielle studied the list. Then she noticed something. "These are all recent." "Yes." "How many?" "7. Danielle leaned back. 7 names. 7 dates. 7 ordinary moments that might have become something else. Marcus closed the document. "We do not know whether there is a pattern. We are not going to assume one. But the department has enough reason to look." Danielle looked toward the window again. Sunlight reflected from a nearby office tower and spread across the glass like a thin sheet of gold. "What happens to the report?" she asked. Marcus answered. "It becomes one version of the story. The recordings become another. An investigator will have to compare them." Danielle nodded slowly. Then Marcus's phone vibrated. He checked the message. This time, he did not speak immediately. "What is it?" Danielle asked. Marcus looked up. "The department wants to meet with you this afternoon." Danielle's stomach tightened. "Why?" Marcus placed the phone face down. "They say they want your statement." Danielle looked at him. "Do I have to go?" "No one is forcing you to meet without counsel." He paused. "But if you choose to go, we will go together." Danielle looked at the folders, the recordings, and the notes she had written the night before. She had spent years teaching children that truth was not always loud. Sometimes it was a quiet fact repeated until someone finally listened. She closed the notebook. "Then let us go." Marcus nodded. "All right." Neither of them knew that the meeting would reveal why Ryan had noticed Danielle's car in the first place. By 2:30 that afternoon, Danielle Carter was sitting in a quiet conference room at the Houston Police Department, with Marcus Reed beside her and a glass of water untouched in front of her. The room had no dramatic courtroom lights, no raised voices, no audience. Just a long table, 4 chairs, a wall clock, and the faint hum of an air conditioner. Yet Danielle could feel the weight of the moment in every second that passed. Marcus had told her to remember one thing before they entered. "You do not need to convince anyone. Tell the truth and let the records do the rest." Danielle had nodded. Now the door opened, and a woman in her early 50s stepped inside carrying a thin folder. "Miss Carter, my name is Evelyn Harper. I am with Professional Standards." She sat across from them. A second investigator followed and placed a recorder on the table. "This interview is voluntary," Evelyn said. "You may stop at any time." Danielle looked at Marcus. He gave a small nod. "I understand," Danielle said. The recorder clicked on. Evelyn began with simple questions. Where had Danielle been coming from? What time had she left the school? Which route had she taken? Where had the officer first activated his lights? Danielle answered carefully. No exaggeration. No assumptions. Just facts. Then Evelyn asked, "Did Officer Mitchell explain the reason for the stop?" Danielle paused. "He said I was driving suspiciously. Later, he said I had made an unsafe turn." "Did he identify the intersection?" "No." "Did you argue with him?" "No." "Did you refuse to cooperate?" "No." Marcus remained silent beside her. Evelyn opened the folder. "We have reviewed the traffic camera footage." Danielle kept her eyes on the table. "It shows your vehicle remained within its lane before the stop." She looked up. Evelyn continued. "We also reviewed the recording from the storefront across the street. The room seemed to grow quieter. Your description of the interaction is consistent with that recording." Danielle breathed out slowly. She had known the evidence existed, but hearing an investigator say it aloud made the moment different. Then Evelyn placed another sheet on the table. "There is one issue we need to discuss." Danielle looked down. It was a map of the area around Westheimer and Kirby. Several locations were marked in blue. Officer Mitchell told investigators that he noticed your vehicle because of a pattern of driving behavior in that neighborhood. Danielle studied the map. "What pattern?" Evelyn shook her head slightly. "That is what we are trying to determine." Marcus finally spoke. "Has the department identified previous stops involving the same explanation?" Evelyn looked at him. "We have identified several reports that require review." Danielle remembered the 7 cases Marcus had shown her that morning. 7? She asked. Evelyn nodded. "At this stage, 7. She opened another folder. "But there is something we did not know yesterday." Danielle waited. Evelyn placed a photograph on the table. It showed a traffic intersection several miles away. Danielle recognized it immediately. "That is not where I was stopped." "No," Evelyn said. "But your vehicle appears in this image from 3 days earlier." Danielle looked closer. "I was driving to school." Evelyn nodded. "We know. Then why does it matter?" Evelyn folded her hands. "Because Officer Mitchell's notes from that day mention your vehicle." Danielle felt a strange stillness settle over her. "He wrote down my car?" "Yes." Marcus leaned forward slightly. "For what reason?" Evelyn looked at the report. "The report says he observed a vehicle he believed was associated with repeated traffic concerns." Danielle looked at Marcus. He said nothing. She looked back at Evelyn. "He had been noticing my car before that Tuesday?" "According to the records, yes." Danielle's mind returned to the previous afternoon. Ryan had asked where she lived. He had asked where she worked. He had asked why she was in the neighborhood. Suddenly, those questions felt less random. Evelyn continued, "We are not asking you to draw conclusions. We are asking whether there was anything about your previous interactions with Officer Mitchell that we should know." Danielle thought carefully. "I had never spoken to him before." "Are you certain?" "Yes." Evelyn made a note. "All right." Marcus glanced at the clock. Danielle could hear the second hand moving. Tick, tick, tick. It was strangely loud in the quiet room. Evelyn closed the folder. "Ms. Carter, there is one more recording we want you to hear." She reached for a small digital recorder. "It was captured by another patrol unit in the area shortly before your stop." Danielle looked at Marcus. His expression had become serious. Evelyn pressed play. Static filled the room. Then Ryan Mitchell's voice came through, quieter than before. "That is the car." A second voice asked, "Are you sure?" Ryan answered, "Yes. I have seen it before." Danielle stared at the recorder. No one spoke. The recording continued for another few seconds. Then Ryan said something that made Marcus slowly turn toward Danielle. "I want to see who is driving it." The audio stopped. The room fell completely silent. Danielle looked at the recorder, then at Marcus. The reason for the stop had just become a much bigger question. And for the first time, she realized that the afternoon at Westheimer and Kirby might not have started with a traffic violation at all. The message from Linda Brooks changed the room. Danielle Carter read it twice, then handed the phone back to Marcus Reed. "She saw him before the stop," Danielle said quietly. Evelyn Harper nodded. "That is what she claims." Marcus looked at the message again. We need her statement in writing. Danielle stared through the conference room window at the Houston skyline. The afternoon light had faded into a soft gray, and the glass towers reflected the last traces of daylight. Everything outside looked ordinary. People were leaving offices. Cars were moving through downtown streets. Somewhere, someone was probably deciding what to have for dinner. Yet Danielle's ordinary Tuesday had become a question that reached far beyond one traffic stop. Evelyn opened another file. There is something else we received this afternoon. She placed a printed document on the table. This is the original department message connected to the vehicle description. Danielle looked down. The document contained a timestamp, an employee identification number, and a short instruction. Be alert for dark sedan. Female black driver. Westheimer area. Danielle read it slowly. Then she looked at Evelyn. Who sent this? That is what we are investigating. Marcus pointed to the timestamp. When was it created? Evelyn answered, 4:32 in the afternoon. Danielle's eyes widened slightly. That was before the stop. Yes. And the vehicle description match mine? It appears to. Marcus leaned closer. Was there any incident number attached to the request? Evelyn shook her head. No. Any complaint number? No. Any stolen vehicle alert? No. Marcus sat back. Danielle looked down at the page again. The sentence was short, almost harmless on its own. But now it felt different. Be alert for dark sedan. Female black driver. Westheimer area. It did not explain why. It did not say what the driver had done. It simply identified a car and a woman. Could someone have mistaken my vehicle for another one? Danielle asked. Evelyn answered honestly. That is possible. Could they have mistaken me for someone else? Also possible. Danielle nodded slowly. Then I want to know who they were looking for. Marcus looked at her. That is the right question. Evelyn turned another page. We have already started checking whether the description matches any active investigation. Danielle waited. And Evelyn hesitated. So far, we have not found one. The words settled heavily in the room. Marcus asked, what about a neighborhood complaint? Nothing matching the description. A traffic complaint? Nothing connected to the license plate. Danielle folded her hands. Then why was my car singled out? No one answered. For several seconds, the only sound was the quiet hum of the air conditioner. Then Evelyn reached for another folder. We contacted dispatch. They found an earlier communication. Marcus looked up. Earlier than 4:32? Yes. Evelyn opened the folder. It came from a patrol unit 2 days earlier. Danielle looked at the document. What did it say? Evelyn read carefully. Vehicle observed near Jefferson Elementary. Same description. Danielle's breathing became slower. That was my school. Marcus looked at her. Did you notice anyone watching you that day? Danielle thought about it. She remembered leaving the school building after dismissal. She remembered carrying a stack of books to her car. She remembered seeing a patrol vehicle parked across the street. At the time, she had assumed the officer was simply waiting for traffic to clear. I saw a patrol car, she said. I did not think anything of it. Evelyn wrote that down. Do you remember the color? It was a Houston Police Department vehicle. Do you remember the officer? Danielle shook her head. No, Marcus asked. Can we identify the unit from the dispatch record? Evelyn nodded. We are working on that. Danielle looked at the clock. Nearly 5 in the afternoon. She realized she had been sitting in the room for more than 2 hours. She should have been thinking about dinner. She should have been grading papers. She should have been preparing tomorrow's reading lesson. Instead, she was trying to understand why a police officer had apparently been paying attention to her car days before the traffic stop. Then Marcus's phone vibrated again. He looked down. This time, his expression changed immediately. What? Danielle asked. Marcus read the message silently. Then he looked at Evelyn. The department found the unit assignment from Monday. Evelyn leaned forward. Which unit? Marcus looked at Danielle. Ryan Mitchell's. Danielle did not speak. The answer was becoming clearer, but one question remained. Why had Ryan been watching her car before that Tuesday afternoon? Evelyn picked up the final document. We may have an answer. Danielle looked at her. What is it? Evelyn turned the page around. At the top was a complaint number Danielle had never seen before. Beneath it was a description of an alleged incident near Jefferson Elementary. The date was Monday. Danielle read the first sentence. Then she stopped. The complaint was about a black woman in a dark sedan. But the name of the woman was not Danielle Carter. It was someone else entirely. Danielle looked up. He may have been looking for another woman. Marcus nodded slowly. And if that is true, We need to know how your car became connected to her description. Evelyn closed the folder. That is what we are going to find out. For the first time since the traffic stop, Danielle felt something other than fear or frustration. She felt clarity approaching. The evidence was finally beginning to explain the chain of events. But the next document would show whether the mistake had been accidental or whether someone had chosen to keep the wrong woman under suspicion. The name on the complaint was not Danielle Carter. It was Angela Brooks. Danielle read it again, slowly, trying to understand how a stranger's complaint had somehow led Ryan Mitchell to her car 3 days later. Marcus Reed leaned closer to the document. "Who is Angela Brooks?" he asked. Evelyn Harper turned to the next page. A 38-year-old black woman who works near Jefferson Elementary. She drives a dark sedan. Danielle looked at Marcus. "What kind?" Evelyn answered, "A black Honda Accord." Danielle stared at her. "I drive a dark blue Toyota." Marcus immediately noticed the difference. Then why was Danielle's vehicle listed? Evelyn turned another page. "That is the question." She placed a second document beside the complaint. It was a vehicle description entered into the department system on Monday afternoon. The description had been changed after the original complaint. Danielle's eyes moved across the page. Dark sedan. Female driver. Black. Westheimer area. No license plate. No exact make or model. Marcus pointed to the timestamp. When was the description changed? Evelyn checked the record. Monday at 4:12 in the afternoon. By whom? Officer Ryan Mitchell. Danielle leaned back. Suddenly the timeline made sense, but it was not the explanation she had expected. Ryan had been looking for Angela Brooks. He had apparently entered a broad description into the system. Then, on Tuesday, he saw Danielle's car and assumed it matched. But there was still one problem. Why did he enter my license plate? Danielle asked. Evelyn looked at the next record. Because he associated your vehicle with the earlier description. Marcus frowned. Without confirming the plate? Apparently. Danielle looked down. So he thought I was someone else. Evelyn nodded carefully. That appears to be what happened. The room became quiet. The discovery should have made Danielle feel relieved. Instead, she felt something more complicated. She had been treated as though she were already guilty of something she had never done. Not because of evidence. Not because of a confirmed identification. Because someone had looked at her car, and decided the description was close enough. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. This is exactly why verification matters. Danielle looked at him. Does that mean he did not mean to target me? Marcus answered carefully. It means we now have evidence that he may have been mistaken about who you were. It does not erase how the stop was handled. Evelyn nodded. And it does not explain why the report described your behavior inaccurately. Danielle looked at the report again. The words argumentative and unsafe were still there. So was the sentence about suspicious driving. What happens to him, she asked. Evelyn was silent for a moment. The department will determine whether policy was violated. The report will be reviewed. The previous stops will also be examined. Danielle nodded. And Angela Brooks? We are contacting her. Danielle looked toward the window. She should know what happened. Marcus watched her carefully. Why? Because this started with her. Danielle picked up the complaint. If someone was looking for her, she deserves to know that my car was mistaken for hers. Marcus gave a slow nod. That is reasonable. Evelyn gathered the documents. There is another matter. Danielle looked up. What? Evelyn said. Officer Mitchell has requested a meeting with professional standards. Marcus's expression changed slightly. When? Tomorrow morning. Danielle sat quietly. The man who had seemed completely certain beside her car was now going to have to explain how the identification happened, why the report contained statements that did not match the recordings, and why her license plate had entered the system before the stop. None of those questions required Danielle to raise her voice. The records were already asking them. Later that evening, Danielle returned to her mother's kitchen. The same 6 lemon cupcakes were on the counter, now reduced to 3. Evelyn poured tea into 2 cups. You look tired, she said. Danielle smiled faintly. I am. She sat down. Her phone vibrated. Marcus had sent an update. Angela Brooks had been contacted. She had confirmed that she had filed the original complaint on Monday. She had also said something unexpected. Ryan Mitchell had spoken to her that same afternoon and told her that he was looking for a specific dark sedan. Danielle stared at the message. He told her. Evelyn asked. Yes. Danielle placed the phone on the table. Then he knew exactly what he was looking for. Evelyn was quiet. Danielle thought about the afternoon again. She remembered Ryan asking where she lived. She remembered him asking where she worked. She remembered his confidence when he told her she had been driving suspiciously. Now she understood that confidence had come from a mistake he had never bothered to verify. Danielle could have felt satisfied by that discovery. She could have wanted him embarrassed. Instead, she looked at her mother and said, "I hope he learns something from this." Evelyn raised an eyebrow. "After everything?" Danielle nodded. "Because if he only loses his job, another person might make the same mistake somewhere else." Her mother studied her daughter's face. "And what do you want?" Danielle answered softly, "Accountability. Training. A better process. Something that keeps this from happening again." That night, Marcus called one final time. "Danielle, the department wants to resolve the complaint formally. They are prepared to acknowledge the inaccurate report and the mistaken identification." Danielle listened quietly. "What do you want me to say?" Marcus asked. Danielle looked toward the kitchen window. The street outside was dark and peaceful. "Tell them I accept the apology," she said. "But tell them an apology is only the beginning." The next morning, Danielle Carter returned to the Houston Police Department with Marcus Reed beside her. She had slept better than the night before, but the weight of everything that had happened was still there, quiet and steady. In her hands was the same notebook where she had written every detail of the traffic stop. The pages were filled with times, locations, questions, answers, and small observations that had seemed unimportant when she first wrote them down. Now those details had become part of a record. Inside the conference room, Evelyn Harper was waiting. Officer Ryan Mitchell was there too, seated across the table with another department representative beside him. Danielle looked at him for a moment. He did not look the same as he had beside her car. There was no command in his expression now. No certainty. Just silence. Evelyn began the meeting by explaining what the department had confirmed. The traffic camera showed that Danielle had not made an unsafe lane change. The storefront recording showed that she had remained calm and cooperative. The patrol recording confirmed that Ryan had described her as suspicious before identifying a specific traffic violation. The dispatch records showed that her vehicle had been connected to an earlier description involving another black woman, Angela Brooks. And the records showed that Ryan had entered Danielle's license plate into the system before stopping her. Danielle listened without interrupting. When Evelyn finished, she looked across the table at Ryan. "Did you know my car was not Angela Brooks's car?" Ryan lowered his eyes for a moment. "Not at the time." Danielle waited. "Did you verify the plate before you stopped me?" Ryan shook his head. "No." The room became quiet. Marcus did not speak. Danielle did not either. She had imagined this moment several times. She had thought she might feel angry. She had thought she might want an explanation that made everything easier to understand. Instead, she felt tired. "Why did you write that I was argumentative?" she asked. Ryan looked at the table. "I should not have described it that way. Why did you write that I made an unsafe turn?" "I was mistaken." Danielle nodded slowly. Those two words were small, but they carried the weight of everything that had happened. Mistaken. The report had turned a misunderstanding into an accusation. The assumption had turned an ordinary drive home into a frightening afternoon. And yet Danielle knew that the most important question was no longer what had happened to her. It was what would happen after her. Evelyn placed a document on the table. "The department has determined that the report contained inaccurate statements and that the vehicle identification process was not followed correctly." She continued, explaining that the matter would be formally documented, that Ryan would be subject to departmental review, and that additional training and oversight would be required. Danielle listened carefully. Then she looked at Ryan. "I accept the apology," she said. Ryan finally raised his eyes. "Thank you." Danielle shook her head gently. "But I need you to understand something. I was not asking you to be kind to me because I am black. I was asking you to treat me like every other person you stop." Ryan said nothing. Danielle continued, "And the next person should not need a lawyer on the phone before they are treated fairly." The room remained silent. Ryan looked down again. For once, there was no argument. No explanation. No attempt to defend the report. Only the quiet recognition that a decision made in a few minutes could affect someone far beyond those few minutes. The meeting ended shortly afterward. Danielle stepped into the hallway with Marcus. Sunlight came through the tall windows and stretched across the polished floor. She stopped for a moment and looked back through the glass door. Ryan was still inside, reading the documents on the table. Danielle did not feel victorious. She did not feel like she had defeated anyone. She simply felt lighter. Outside the building, Houston was already moving. Cars passed along the street. People hurried toward offices. A delivery truck rolled slowly through the intersection. Danielle walked beside Marcus toward the sidewalk. "Are you satisfied?" he asked. Danielle thought about the question. Satisfied is not the word. Then what is? She looked toward the morning light. Hopeful. Marcus nodded. A few days later, Danielle returned to Jefferson Elementary. Her students were waiting for her, talking over one another as they settled into their seats. She placed her books on the desk and smiled. One child noticed the small bakery box beside her. "Are those cupcakes?" Danielle laughed. "They are." The classroom filled with warmth. She looked around at the children and thought about everything that had happened. The traffic stop, the phone call, the recordings, the report, the apology. None of it had erased the afternoon, but it had changed what came after. Danielle picked up a marker and turned toward the whiteboard. Her phone rested quietly on her desk. She did not need to reach for it. She had already made the call that changed everything. And this time, the silence that followed did not feel like helplessness. It felt like peace.